Searching for Sugarman. Well, I pretty much set it up the other day when I was talking about that movie, Danny Collins. This is more, miracles are involuntary. So this whole movie is just showing the wonder of how a miracle can spread and reach people that we have never met and never even conceived of, as Jesus says in the Course. So it's just one of these movies based on an actual story that's so fascinating. So there's not a whole lot other than just enjoy. This is one of our enjoyable. Really enjoy this one. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite amazing, especially with that when you look at that Danny Collins movie too, how he got that letter from John Lennon, but this was almost like more the essence that so much wants to just be used and expressed without any of the trappings of fame or anything that the world has to offer. That time when I got those two movies, The Game and then The Man Who Knew Too Little, and it was just striking the contrast. In the Game, Michael Douglas that character is just fighting, but the two movies are so similar in their basic setups, but the other one, Bill Murray, is just so lighthearted, and this was like, you could just see it. Sugarman, he didn't really, he just expressed, let the poetry pour through him. I think you'd probably find the same if you went back to, Rumi's really popular now, but if you went back to the days of Rumi in his life,
they thought he was crazy.
Yeah, he just was expressing. It was very similar, very poetic and very profound. And I think for all of us, though, it has huge ramifications because, as you go about your daily life and your daily work and you're just extending what's in your heart, it's really for the whole universe. And the world doesn't see that. The world's like, well, are you famous and what are the numbers and all the things? And yet for us, we feel such a richness in heart, like he felt with his music, it's just the look on his face. And, what were you doing? Oh, demolition. He was demolishing the ego in his simple ways of his construction jobs and those kind of things. But there wasn't any kind of a motive to make something happen. And then the Spirit just brought everything around. It was kind of magical, miraculous, the way that everything kind of just, people were so touched, they just wanted to stand there and scream. Even before he played, they just wanted to pour their hearts out. I think that is the telltale sign of the miracle. Because I know when I would go around from place to place to place, first just reading the Course, practicing the Course, and then just starting to accept invitations, I used to feel like, wow, this is the greatest job in the world. Everything opens up. People come, their faces light up when you walk in. You've never met them. They've maybe read something on the internet or they've heard something. Like when I first went to Colombia, it's like, I first went to Colombia, it was a Sugarman kind of moment because it's like, it was all these hurricanes hitting Florida, and my translator, Susana Ortiz, who's quite a popular Course in Miracles teacher nowadays online, but she came over from Canary Islands, and I met her in the airport, and the airports were packed because a lot of people from Latin America were trying to get out, to go back to Latin America, because I think 3 or 4 hurricanes had pounded Florida on that particular day, and we got on the plane, and as soon as the plane took off, we got up. They announced that they closed the the Miami International Airport. We were like one of the last planes to get out of there, and the whole Miami airport was shut down. We landed in Cali, Colombia, and we were in there going through getting our bags and everything, and she was having some delays, and so I said, well, I'll just go and I'll wait out front. So she was being questioned, and they had people with guns and dogs sniffing the bags and everything, and they were sniffing her bags. So I said, so I walked out of the doors of the Cali, Colombia airport, and there was this whole gang of people, and it was a standing ovation. They were all standing and cheering, and she was inside thinking, what is going on out there? And I saw all these people, and they were all cheering and jumping up and down and everything, and I was looking around, I thought maybe McCartney or somebody. I was thinking, what is going on? And as they were all doing that for me, and then when they came out, she walked out, and they all roared for her, and she was just like, because it was totally, we were more like the sisters, like maybe there'll be 20 people and people at the airport, and then there were groupies, and it was just, the whole teachings had been translated into Spanish, but it's the sign of the miracle. It was just so heartfelt, the Spirit going before you, and it was very, very surreal going down. Like with him, he'd never been to South Africa, I'd never been to Cali, Colombia, walking in there, but it's the Spirit going before us. And it's just great to think of it, that that's what all of this inner work that we're doing is going to have it is having and will have a great, tremendous splash and reverberation and reflection way beyond what we can see and way beyond what he could see. But what a movie to show that he stepped out there. Wow. And imagine walking into the first time where these guys grew up playing and playing his music over and over and over, wondering if they're, that he was dead. You see how the ego fills in when it can't figure it out. It just fills in. He shot himself in the head. He burned himself on stage. It just gives the most horrendous thing, and it had nothing to do with anything. And then he shows up, and they're right in the middle of a song, and they just stop, and they just stop saying, and he starts right in. They're just almost like, it's just like, oh my God, what is this? What a great movie.
Wow.
I love how he was so direct with his, with that message, with what was coming, through, you can feel it, that it was absolutely unfiltered, that it was coming out the way it's coming out, and then it seemingly wasn't, popular in the States, but yet it reached exactly for who it was for South Africa, and then heard just that message of it's okay, encouragement, the content of it just exactly as it is.
Yeah.
And that's again, it's just so very deep. It's just with this non-compromising clarity, just stay with that clarity, and then not even trying to look, is it good, is it accepted, it's just whatever truly inspiring, just staying with that.
And the presence too of that, because it seems like, I love it when the interviewers were trying to ask and trying to figure the whole thing out, and they just could not figure it out from him. And when you see his face and you feel the presence coming through, you don't get the sense that he felt that he had a hard life. And you don't get the sense that when they was trying to say, oh, don't you feel terrible, almost like the hypothetical where you could have had this amazing life. And this movie is from some years ago. I remember the first, I think I was out here in Utah when we first saw it. And I think I Googled Rodriguez, and he was here in Salt Lake City playing a concert, and I was just like, because it was, you see how it brought it home, and that was all the movie, he went back there and played these concerts and everything, and then he goes, it kind of gives you the impression and everything, but when Searching for Sugar Man came out in the United States, that just brought it all out, and all the people became aware of that, and I think could feel the thing. So there he was. I think he was over at some, I don't know if it was somewhere over in Temple Square or wherever I've been to some concerts over there myself, but he was there. I was like looking at him going, my gosh, he's right there in Salt Lake City. So it was able to, as soon as the timing was right, he was able to, there wasn't a ripeness for it in the United States, it was just the timing. Because the way they did the movie and it came out, that just stirred up a whole new thing. Almost like they're parallel, like it's a quantum movie, and there was different quantum effects, and he was so easygoing from his life in Detroit down there. Even though his children, the people that traveled with him, they couldn't believe it. They thought he would be overwhelmed or astonished, to not be playing in these tiny little dives and, misty, smoky bars to thousands and tens of thousands of people. Yeah. And even for people in our ministry that think about doing touring and speaking in public speaking and speaking in front of crowds, this movie is the Holy Spirit's answer. Like, oh, please, Jesus is saying, please don't. I'm the one who's going to do it anyway. So why are you concerned about how many people are listening or how many people are at the event? Because it doesn't have anything to do with people. The presence was there when he walked on that stage. Yeah, people felt the love.
Like that came out in 2012 at Sundance, and it was the hit of it. Everybody was walking around going, "Did you see Sugar Man?" And then they'd say, "Oh, what's it about?" And they go, "No, just go see it." Like they would. Yeah. Everyone was just electric, but refusing again to say what it was about. You just have to go see it. It was this vibe. It was electric. The place was electric with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of got the sense he was being protected. Because if he would have gone during apartheid, he would have been the symbol that they'd all try to attack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just the music went, but this mysterious... They didn't have anybody to shut down, scratching the records and doing all their things, but the Spirit was at work behind all of it. Oh, my gosh.
He seemed to be in a happy dream, even with the refrigerators on his back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could have been the government too that decided to kill him.
Well, yeah.
Something.
Start telling them that.
Yeah.
Your fear is dead.
Yeah, that's interesting. That gives me, when you said happy dream, because that's the first kind of retreat I have scheduled for next year. After a pause here in the winter, is in around the 9th or 10th of February is the Happy Dream Retreat. Right out there in LA, Pacific Palisades, Hollywood. And I was thinking, I could show that. Could show that out there. I could show Searching for Sugarman and use that as the teaching device. Because, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and a movie like this, it's absolutely spectacular teaching device, especially in the contrast of Hollywood. And two of the people I'm presenting with are my friends Maria Felipe and Bridget are both like models. And so it's this whole thing of being in front of the camera and all the focus on glamour and the body and everything. And they're very good Course in Miracles teachers. But a movie like this, too, is such a, it's so deep. It makes you just pause and breathe in and go, whoa.
The face shall be last.
Yeah.
Shall be free.
Yeah.
It's like born, like rich in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Poor in something. Poor in spirit, rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, because a lot of Course in Miracles teachers, I think if you even go through the Course teachers, a lot of them, like Marianne and everything, who had a huge role in introducing it, and Oprah played a part of that, and this and this and this. But I remember sitting with having dinner with Judy Scutcheon, her telling that story about how many people is the course for, and when she asked Helen how many books to publish, Helen said 4, and she said 40,000. 4,000? 4, like 4. It was Judy couldn't process the answer, and Helen did share at one point that for the entire first generation of the people that work with the course, the entire first generation of what we would call a lifetime of maybe 70 or 80 years, that for that first generation, the course was for a number of people that you could count on both hands in the entire first generation. That's how many people would experience A Course in Miracles.
All the sayings have similar.
Yeah. It's really, that's what this message was kind of, movie is showing too, that Jesus says this course will be believed entirely or not at all. So, and Ken had said that to Judy about, he said to Judy, we're plan B. Jesus says we're plan B. And she says, I don't like the sound of that, plan B. All that we're doing with translating the course and publishing the course and disseminating the course. And Ken said, yep. And teaching the course like Ken was, conceptually, in lectures and so forth. He said, yeah, we're all plan B. He said, the plan A is living it. And there was a vision that Helen had of a group of people that would actually live the course. And she saw it kind of as a vision, as like a place in Greece and so on and so forth. And he said, yeah, that's plan A. Plan A is living it. And so everything that we do, like our community call today, was really getting down to the core of, wow, this is all just a backdrop for going into an experience. It's all the things and the people and the writings and the translations and the transmissions and everything that may even seem important in the course of a lifetime, that's still the backdrop. It's actually just about an experience and really nothing more. It's a tweak in the mind. It's this little, tiny little tweak from ego over to spirit. And all of everything else that seems to be so blown up and important has no validity, no reality whatsoever. You could really see it in this movie. He was integrous. He went along. You could see when they first found him, he just had this look on his face, like, trying to say the hypothetical, your whole life would be different if no. He wasn't buying it. Life would be different if circumstances had been different. That's the great lie.
And it wasn't. It didn't end up being different.
No.
Even once it did.
Right.
To make money.
Didn't want to go
there.
You can feel that in presence. When you go to a concert or you go to a satsang or a teaching or a gathering, and you feel that deep love and presence, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the setting or the people or the numbers of people or whatever. It's almost like the ego has generated its own sense of a buzz, like when people go to sports stadiums and fill up, they feel like a buzz, like an electric buzz of being in a huge sports stadium and rooting for a team and doing the wave and doing all those kind of things that the ego is trying to reach something, but it's not really anything like that. It's not the buzz, and then you see people who go through all these tremendous sports feats. I remember all this stuff. Much younger, watching the Olympics and the triathletes and all the different ones. Bruce Jenner winning, the gold, all these gold medals, and years later, transgender and operations and all these projections onto, oh my, how dare him, turn into a woman and all this craziness and everything. It just, the whole world is just a distorted lens of looking for meaning where there is none. And then you see a movie like this and it's like, oh, the grace just comes through, the ease comes through his songs. Just so simple. In fact, his daughter used it, how's he live now? Very, 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 very simple life. Just the basics.
When he was in the hotel, he slept on the sofa. He didn't want to mess up the bed next to bed.
Yeah. I remember, when I look around at this room, I remember one day, Lisa and I went out to furnish this entire wing of the Peace House in one afternoon. And we took off and we walked into this store and we'll say, we'll take these kind of chairs, we'll take 7 of those, and we'll take these, and we're just walking through, going through and having a ball, pointing. At the end, they had a special running where they were giving away movies, DVDs, and they had all these different movies there, and I said, oh, how many movies do we get? And it was like something like, well, you bought so much, you get like 17 DVDs, movies, as a gift. I said, I'll take 17 of the same movie, this one. They're like, what? What do you want with 17 of the same movie? This time traveler's life. I said, this one's so good. I have to give this away to all my friends. But I remember it got to be so late that we got back to the house. We pulled up out front there, I don't know, about 11 o'clock, and some people were gone to bed or whatever. We came in, okay, let's go, we're going to empty, we got stuff to move in. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And then, it was so sweet. Andy just had such a reaction when we brought these in. He said, have you people lost your mind? What are you doing? But it all was quick. And here we are years later. When was that? I don't even know what year.
2011.
We're still using these chairs, doing all these calls, watching our movies. But it just seemed, like surreal, getting these poofy kind of movie chairs. It's like, what are you? This is Jesus having fun. I mean, he knows exactly what's coming and what's helpful and necessary, but it just doesn't fit into any boxes. Just amazing. I think Eric is like he's our sugar man. He's channeled the spirit in all of his songs, and even the content is not that different from it, about trying to overcome the darkness and it's some remote part of the universe. There's this huge you've got an alternative self. That's right. You're playing before like massive crowds, bigger than the Beatles, bigger than everything, and they're all just like tonight. It's not. It's like Cher. They don't have your Archibald. It's just Eric. They don't even need the Archbold point. Tonight, Eric. Everyone's like there, getting there early and chanting. Then you come out and sing a Peace of Mind. They all sing along. They know every word because it resonates with it's all just these parallel universes, and it's so deep and it's so touching. But it has to be in the context of where Jesus always prefaced everything he said with, "For those who have the ears to hear, let them hear." It was like he was speaking for all eternity. He was speaking beyond time. He was speaking for all the universes. On a stage for all the universes of transcendence of this whole cosmos. And so it's just kind of interesting. It's like Eric, in this particular realm, Eric's music is virtually unknown, and Donald Trump is president of the United States. And we are, that's kind of fun that we're here and we've found each other, and we're in wacky land. I mean, we have seemingly manifested in total wacky land where we resonate. We listen to Eric's music like Sugarman over and 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 over, and then we turn on the TV and we go, pinch me, what? Where am I? We're a billionaire with vulgar language and all kinds of things, and totally outrageous is the President of the United States, and Eric's music is unknown. Like, what? Where have we landed? What is this? What is this strange place? But yet we're like Sugarman. We're having fun because we don't have to try to fit into this strange place. We don't even really have to try to relate to it, actually, because it's all coming from our hearts. It's moving through us, but there's no reference point, to it. Where Jesus says, "In this world is backwards and upside down." So I guess what would you expect from seeming to find yourself in an impossible situation? I remember that time early on when Kirsten, we were talking, and you were just reading sometimes you read the course and you'd get your eyes get real big and you'd come over and he says it's an impossible situation. This world is an impossible situation. Almost like, and that, imagine finding yourself in an impossible situation, and then a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, like going down the rabbit hole and then finding yourself in a very, very strange world where everything was distorted and being completely disoriented, and yet having a journey to make. Or, in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy leaving Kansas and going to a very different world than Kansas, with munchkins and flying monkeys and a witch with green face and a big nose. I remember when we were kids, we just were like, we were just horrified. It was tough to go to sleep at night after hearing, we'd be like, leave the light on, we would it would be just shocking portrayals of fear. Like, how do you show this movie to children, damaging us for life, and anything like this? But yet, we made it through. We did make it through, and it was Dorothy. It was like that was going to be the story of our life. We would find ourselves in a very strange land, very disoriented, wanting to go home, and happy to be meeting some people along the way that would journey with us on that journey. Finally, right.
Meeting those who understand.
Right.
Even if there's straws falling out.
Right. Even if there's...
We're okay, look. We're together. Follow the yellow brick road.
And the characters, the lion who was so afraid, remember that tail was going around? What is it? It takes courage. Courage. He needs courage because he's a fearful lion. And the Tin Man who was so closed up with his emotions and everything, and he would just freeze up. and a scarecrow with all this straw thrown out all over the road. It's very descriptive of the human condition. And Dorothy, and it's interesting when I was down in Australia, I guess some of you got to hear the Mudgee ones, but when the woman, one of the events sings "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," did you get to see that? It was amazing. It sounded like her. It sounded...
It's funny, that story's been with us ever since we were children.
Yeah.
And it's the story of awakening.
Yeah.
You had it all along.
Yeah, it manifested for us, you know. It's,
Never went anywhere.
you can really see that no matter how thick the ego's fog has been, and it took 2,000 years for Jesus to get the Course into this realm after he appeared 2,000 years ago, but actually when you start to listen to the music and look at the movies, the signs and symbols are all around us, you know. We really can't miss it. Like, it's, even though the ego's fog has been thick, the light is just streaming through. And it's not very subtle. It's actually pretty, you really look at all of it. That's what the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment, when you bring it all together, or if we do this Music Lover's Guide to Enlightenment, where we bring it all together, it's going to be overwhelming, I think, for anyone who just gives themselves over to it and starts to see all the connections, all the dots connected. Like, wow, it was there all along. We were being serenaded, we were being taken to the movies. We didn't even fully understand it at the time, but now it starts to be amazingly clear. Reminds me a bit of Rules for Decision too, where Jesus does say at one point, he's got his first two of Rules for Decision. Decide the kind of day you want and say to yourself, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. And then he does bring in that it's easier to have a happy day if you really stay with the first two. It's when you slip off that it's harder to get back. And that's what that Danny Collins movie, you know, it's like Danny Collins has gone down and he's been tempted by the ego, and he's got himself into drugs and oblivion. His living situation, his whole life, he's totally disconnected and out of touch. And he's gone down, and he's needing all 7 rules of decision, even though we've been told it's harder to get back. And he certainly, that's what the movie was. He was following the signs, reconnecting with his son, you know, facing the things he had to face, and having maybe that one relapse. But that's kind of a take heart movie, like don't give up, you can always turn it around. But this movie is like showing the precious jewel of, if you can just come into your function, then you're there. And you don't have to come back. You don't have to wish that the circumstances of the world will change, that we'll get better politicians, or we'll save the Mother Earth and save the environment, and we'll save this and save that. All that's just a distraction from accepting the function. Jesus even has a workbook lesson. My happiness and my function are one. He says they're actually identical. Your happiness is your function. It has nothing to do with circumstances. And that's really what that movie we just watched shows. That he was the same regardless of the circumstances. You could see it on his face. He was unaffected. He was happy and delighted, and he did have that home feeling, but I didn't get the sense that he was discontent in Detroit at all. You know, it wasn't like he had to go make some voyage and go to a place to find his long lost, family or whatever. It was like he had it all along, and that's quite a teaching. I think that's part of that shift too, where we're going from years of exposing and gnashing of teeth and all this darkness coming up and people screaming and shouting and throwing stuff and this craziness. When people try to go for God and live in community, then it's like the insanity shows itself. And it's kind of like Jesus is kind of like, well, yeah, that was all, don't judge any of it, but now I have something for you. We're going for the higher experience of actual forgiveness now. That was the preliminaries. Was clearing, like, now this is it. This is what I need you for. And with the same precision, like in the Bourne movies, like, here, do this, do only that. Like you were emphasizing, that's the most direct path, is do only that. When the Eastern journey is pretty much neti, not this, not that. It's a lot of elimination. And then Jesus' path is do only that. And I will direct you. I will guide you. This is the shortcut. This is the fast track. Don't even be tempted to go back to neti. And he does say in the Course that can God be reached directly, and can you go right to truth? It is a sense of, it's not necessary to seek for the truth, but it is necessary to seek for everything that is false, which is kind of the neti peeling thing. But he's really calling us into a function, saying, if you have the ears to hear this, then we can save thousands of years for everyone. If you just link up with me, like hold on to me. I remember when the very first big time production of Superman came out with Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeves. And they're up and they're talking on the top of this skyscraper building, and he kind of takes her and he grabs her and holds her and takes her out. He doesn't like fly off. He just kind of steps out into the air. And she's, oh. They're just up in the air. He's not like flying. He's just holding her. And he's, oh. He says, don't worry, I've got you. And she says, who's got you?
Yeah.
That's the famous line of the Lord. Like, who's got you? But that's the whole thing. It's like Jesus is gently saying, I've got you. Be calm. Don't worry, this is a done deal. I've got you. And yet the mind, when it's frightened, is, but who's got you? And Jesus is like, God's got me. That's why I'm so calm. God's got me. I've got you. You've got no worries. Can you just trust that you're held? We don't have to question who's got you. Yeah, how beautiful. Just to trust. How beautiful.
I love that demonstration of Rodriguez that the ego had no power over him. Like his faith was not in the world, and when he was asked about that hypothetical question, he said, well, the music industry, like he literally said, I don't have any expectations of it. You never know what's going to happen with it. And I feel that's where it was powerful. Like his faith was not in the world, and so it couldn't let him down. And so whatever played out, even though he seemed to be ripped off, the money never got to him, it's not his concern. What plays out in the ego's world was not his concern at all. He was just doing his part that was given him of the Spirit, which is to stay with himself, his inspiration. Wear his tuxedo to his demolition job, and just be a shining light. Like exactly.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see that with him, and the daughter had just a little bit of like somebody made money. And the thing that was so beautiful was even Clarence made a lot of money, and this was easy money. This wasn't managing and doing all the hassles with everything. Clarence had easy money, and he got a little flustered there. But the beautiful thing was, when he started off, they just mentioned the name Rodriguez, and he's like, yeah, he's my man. And even for Clarence, I think he felt a deep connection with Rodriguez. He felt the deep meaning in the lyrics, like how, and he was almost like, he was a symbol of, beyond the music industry, there is a power. And so even for Clarence, who made all his money, he adored Rodriguez. He wasn't thinking, I'm ripping off. He just didn't question. The money was coming in big time. It was rolling in. And all these other stars that he worked with and everything, he had the same thing, but through contracts, and they were out working hard and performing. And then there's this mystery Rodriguez money that just keeps showing up from South Africa. But I could just feel the grace in all of it, how Jesus is behind everything. He doesn't perceive that it's possible for someone to be taken advantage of at all. Beware of the temptation to perceive yourself unfairly treated, because you're trying to make something that's not even there. You're just binding yourself into illusions. And so that was all perfect too. Everything was perfect. His attitude was the demonstration. It's not like one of those kind of stories where somebody's been done wrong, and then at the end, there's the big formula in the end where Rodriguez gets the mansion he always deserved and the payback of all the funds that were stolen from him. And that's the world's formula for a happy ending. This is a happiness beyond beginnings and endings. There was no need for that. And with all that's going on right now, those protests, up in North Dakota, and all around the world, people fighting for minorities, fighting for women's rights, fighting for the rights of the native, Aborigine, and all this fighting over the rights thing. I remember there was one point where I was kind of asking Jesus about, the Constitution of the United States, of these inalienable rights, that we were given, God-given inalienable rights, and that all men are created equal, and da-da-da-da-da. And he said, no, you actually have no rights in this world. That who you are stands like a shining star in eternity, and that's your birthright. That's your only right, is your birthright, that God created you perfect. That's your right. You have no human rights. There's never been human rights violations. There's never been a single human rights violation. Why? Because humans don't have any rights. They're constructs, they're bodies. The ego projected the body, and it projected the private minds and private thoughts. It projected the rights and all the civil disobedience and all the things that Gandhi was going for, and Martin Luther King, and all of our heroes that Marianne loves so much, and this. Nada. They don't even have any reality, because God creates in spirit, and only spirit is real. And everything else has never happened. And so that's what we're coming into. That's the peace of God. I grew up, in 10 years of university, I went to all the different classes, and of course I lived in the decade right after the 60s, so I started looking into things like social justice and all this kind of social justice issues and everything. And Jesus has a section in the course that really addresses that, and the name of this section is the justice of heaven. And in that section, Jesus comes out and says, there is no justice in this world. Oh my God, he's just wiped out the entire history of the world, wiped out social justice, marches for peace, all the demonstrations, all the things that are going on now where they're shooting water hoses on people in sub-zero temperatures up in North Dakota, and for a pipeline to come and pump oil down, and all these things. Our friend Shailene, what's her name, Woodley, is up there with red on her face and all wrapped up in this and this. All of it goes in forgiveness when you just have one instant of realizing, accepting what Jesus says, that there is no justice in this world. And he even titles it the justice of heaven. That heaven awaits for you. Heaven is your right. Heaven is your birthright. Heaven is your inheritance. And heaven is spirit. And nothing but that has any reality whatsoever. That's amazing. Somebody had come up to Mother Teresa and said, there is no such thing as justice in this world. There's no difference between the rich or the poor. She might have peed in her pants, but that's the message of Jesus. That is literally where her heart was, and her heart was heading. She wanted to see the face of Christ in everyone that she pulled off the street and everyone she met. And by golly, that's it. All it takes is a recognition in the mind of what's real and true, which the Holy Spirit provides, and also what's false, so that you don't invest your time and energy trying to heal what isn't real. You cannot heal what isn't real. You can't heal the body. You can't heal interpersonal relationships. You can't heal the planet. You don't have to heal the environment. You don't have to worry about animal populations that are going extinct, because they can't go extinct. They never were created in the first place. How can they go extinct? You see, there's no cause that is worthy of your mind except atonement, except correction. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, it's amazing. We have the power to create, and we have the power to destroy. No, actually, we don't have the power to destroy. Even those teachings that go higher and higher that say, well, it's your choice. You can be an agent of love or an agent of fear. Well, actually, in the end, you have to start to realize that is no choice at all. It never could have been a choice that was sponsored by God, because God doesn't even know of choice. But to come to that place of right-mindedness where you see that, my gosh, there never was a mistake. There never was a mistake. That's what the healing is that's what the healing is coming back in touch with that, the truth, nothing in terms of form.
Somebody called here the other day and he had a question about the disappearance of the universe and whether you can take it literally that the universe is an illusion. I said, well, pretty much. And he just goes, like, that's what I thought. I'm so relieved to get confirmation to that. So I just really wanted to ask that question.
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
Some reviewer on Amazon is my favorite because he pointed out that the titles of Gary's books are a series of steps. Just 3 simple steps. After the disappearance comes your immortal reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, I didn't even realize that. I loved Gary's book. That's how I got into it.
Just the titles. For someone who doesn't even crack the book, they could just read the title. Yeah.
I like You Cannot Heal What Is Not Real. That's why PR picked that one up real quick.
That's really nice.
It's very deep.
That just frees the mind immediately.
Doesn't it? We can address that.
It's a play party.
Yeah.
Cannot heal what is not real. Everybody can rest.
That's the best song.
Something similar to that was on my mind. I don't vote. Initially, it was because I studied at being rigged as a hacker, like just right. But now it's spiritual. Like I do, it's all in mind. So my roommate was getting upset that I didn't vote. She's like, "You don't care about social issues. You don't care about." I'm like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not good. She's spiritual, so she still believes in duality and things. And I'm like, I honestly don't think I can explain it. I had the hardest time like, trying to simultaneously remember the principles of the course and realize that she simply couldn't understand it. And I almost felt, I did feel that. Because it's like, I don't want to just tell someone, you can't understand me. It's like saying, you're too stupid. But it's like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, you literally need years of training your mind to, yeah. So, it was interesting.
Now you've got a line. Cannot heal what is not real.
It's very good. Bumpers.
Yeah, it's good to think that there are no right or wrongs in the world at all. And I like that line in the Course where Jesus says, what you do comes from what you think. So if you just allow your mind to soar up into the right-mindedness, which is right-minded thinking with God, then the whole idea of voting becomes impossible. It's kind of like that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, Down the Rabbit Hole, where they're talking to this physicist, and he says something, what is the question is, what is the marital status of the number 5, I think. Mm-hmm. That's what voting is. It's trying to make sense of what is the marital status of the number 5. And then the physicist goes, the number 5 doesn't have a marital status. And when we look at the human construct, once you accept the personality or the person is real, you've just accepted a contradiction beyond measure. That suddenly, if spirit is all that there is, the person with a private mind, private thoughts, and choice, personal choice, which is essential to elections, or all these assumptions that come in. And so to the angels, voting is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious because they know that you can't vote. That's what the big joke is. They go, did you hear about the election? They go, they don't even have to hear about who won or lost. They laugh at the thought of an election because that's all fabricated. Choice. There is no choice in oneness. There is no choice in heaven, but choice itself is a fabrication. But then Jesus will take that fabrication and say, actually, that's how we're going to get back. That's why he's got right mind and wrong mind throughout the whole book. He's taking it off the form of Trump versus Hillary or whatever to right mind, wrong mind. So he's saying, we must work with what you believe. You believe in duality. So now, even one of his course workbook lessons is, heaven is the decision that I must make. Heaven is not really a decision. The angels laugh at that one too, because they know it's just a state of mind. It's not a decision. But for the mind that's asleep and dreaming and believes in duality, heaven is the decision that I must make. You see how he's very clear. Atonement is the needle in the haystack. And he's saying, we're going to find this together. And you surely will, and then you'll wake up from the dream. So I think that's what Diana and Suzanne did in their election thing. It was more about tracing it back to, let's look where decision really is, and put your mind's energy on the right mind, wrong mind, on that discernment is a good use of your mind's energy. And debating if you're going to vote for hypothetical Trump or hypothetical Hillary, and all the arguments and justifications and everything, they are all part of a defense, actually, against the acceptance of what is. So.
Almost like we're redemption by having a choice, win or lose, and the truth is it's just like false redemption.
And there will come a point where if somebody comes to you and they just have an open mind and they go, Steve, I don't get this. Like, why don't you vote? I don't get it. I want to understand. And then the words will be given. Just like you notice great teachers like Byron Katie, they don't back down from questions. She will come back with, is it so? You know, what do you believe? Well, somebody may say, well, I believe Hillary's the better candidate, and da-da-da-da-da, and these are my reasons, or I believe I'm a vegetarian for these reasons, or I believe whatever they say they believe. And then the great teacher will come and just say, oh, okay, thank you for sharing that. Is it so? Let's really look closely and deeply. And that's what I did with the early students in the early 1990s. We would come around like we do here, and everybody would say what's on their heart, and this is what's troubling me, this is what's bothering me, I'm struggling with this, I'm challenged with that. Good, let's start with that. And then, is it so? Is that really so? I mean, we would spend hours going into one topic or one issue. If somebody had a real charge or a real burning passion, like, I need to know but this is really bothering me, and so everybody in the whole group we would all go into it together. Let's, whether it was with Rhonda had children and concern over health issues with the children, or I know it was concern with, we had children in the community back then, but it was on which TV shows to watch. And her husband did not study the course, Tom. And he would kind of hear bits and pieces of the course, and so he would say to his wife, they can watch whatever they want, because it doesn't matter, don't you know? Don't you listen to David in the course? He'd go, lesson number 1, Rhonda, nothing I see means anything. And they would sit sometimes in front of really violent things and sit mesmerized, watching the things, these violent cartoons or violent shows and everything, and she said something intuitively in me does not feel that that's the best thing for our children to sit there like marshmallows glued to a TV watching anything, and you're quoting lesson number 1 from the course is not sitting well with me, and I do not feel that's the best for them. And I want to explore this with David. So we would spend hours taking it into the mind. What are all the beliefs? She was stirred up, and he was a bit uncomfortable. He wanted to have a quick answer, like let them watch whatever they want. It's just an illusion. And come on, lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. But it wasn't sitting with her. She didn't intuitively feel that was the thing. So we would work it in, to the point where I used the whole situation as a way to foster them to start to talk more openly and directly about what they were feeling and what they were thinking and what they were believing, to get in touch authentically with what it is they were believing. And that's where the healing comes in. In the end, people have to be given the permission to start, this doesn't feel right, this feels awkward. He was not really in touch with his feelings, but he was a bit overwhelmed, I think, with the children, and he had his job and his career, and parenting on top of everything was a bit too much. So it was like, just let them watch whatever they want, and kind of a push away. And she was just intuitively feeling it wasn't right. So that's the whole point as we go into these things, to make it to the point where you just are so in tune with Spirit that if there's anything to answer, and if someone's truly asking, if they really have, it's really the sincere question, they have to really come with, I don't get it, Steve. And you're getting in touch with what it is too, which is important.
Yeah, I got flustered by illusions of attack, and I probably immediately assumed she wouldn't understand the answer, so I probably blocked the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, a slight defensiveness will do that. Will block the Holy Spirit from coming. Okay, looks like it's bedtime.
So beautiful, thank you.
Please
Perfect.
curl up.
Yeah. That'll be time for our next book after our next book.
You can't heal what's unreal. What's unreal?
Real, what's not real.
It's a good time. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. That was fun.
Wonderful Thanksgiving Day.
Well, over the holidays, we'll stay open to the movies.
Classics.
That one, just boing, as soon as I watched Danny Collins, that was just like... I said, searching, there's something in there, searching for Sugarman. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. I've got an idea. I'll have to see if I get a slot for a movie at that Happy Dream Retreat. That would be a great movie. In fact, I'm supposed to show a movie here in Utah at the Easter retreat.
Ooh.
So I have to really see what is going to be the most impactful on resurrection. It's the Easter retreat. What's the most helpful, the most impactful movie to show at an Easter retreat? Because they've got me slotted not to speak at all, but to do a Saturday night movie gathering over at the...
Solaris. Bring it home.
It may be a movie session, but you will speak.
I will speak.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Time's End.
Yeah. Powerful punch. Time's End.
Oh.
And after-
with a lot of commentary.
Yeah, after that retreat, Suzanne said our Going Deeper retreat at the monastery is catching fire, filling up. So that'll be a good team effort to let people descend on our monastery and with the title Going Deeper. After Resurrection, Easter Sunday, Going Deeper, what could that be?
Sphere on that one, or the abyss or something.
Oh.
Take
The abyss.
The abyss.
This.
Nicholas is ready.
Good night.
Kirsten. Oh.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with a humdinger of a movie. Well, thank you all. That's been a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dave.